Greetings, Royal Queens and Kings. It's your host, Queen Tulsa, and welcome back to the Queen Tulsa Show. We're going to be covering some true crime, the OnlyFans model pleads guilty in bizarre fetish session tragedy. In this video, we break down the shocking criminal case of OnlyFans model Michaela Rylaarsdam. Rylaarsdam has officially entered a guilty plea following the tragic death of a client. The incident occurred during a dangerous extreme fetish session involving plastic wrap and Gorilla Glue. We explore the court details, the official charges, and the legal outcomes of this highly unusual true crime case. All right, so let's go ahead and let's get into it. All right.
Fatal fetish murder case for Michaela Rylaarsdam.
Now, she's accused of second-degree murder for the death of Michael Dale. Investigators say the victim paid Rylaarsdam money to put a bag on his head and then record it for her OnlyFans page. Well, Dale died from the incident. I want to get you into court now for the beginning of this hearing for Rylaarsdam.
Before we get up into the court, I don't know. Like when it comes to like fetishes and things like that, they can be extreme. And I'm just going to say this. I'm going to be going down a rabbit hole of different type of fetishes, extreme fetishes, because I need to kind of know, about the fetishes and stuff like that. So let me know if you guys are here with me. Please like that button and share us out. Tell somebody that we're doing some true crime early in the morning. Let's go.
We're here for a preliminary hearing. I did get some media requests. We did have a chambers conference to discuss if anyone had issues with the media requests. It's my understanding this is not an ID case, and therefore there are no objections to the media being present people.
Correct.
Defense.
It's not an ID case, Your Honor.
Understood. So no objection?
Correct.
Okay. So that's granted, and as I explained, all filming can occur. However, at some point, we're going to play some videos which will not be allowed to be shown on camera. So with that said, are there any other motions we need to attend to before we start calling witnesses?
I'd move to exclude witnesses and admonish.
Hey. Okay, so we have Michaela. I'm going to just call her Michaela. Michaela is charged with second degree unalivement. Man who paid her for fetish sex died by asphyxiation in 2023 on the record. And we got AT2 in the building. What's up? How are you? Good to see you. You said, I heard about this story. I'm confused because she was trying to delete him. I think it just got too freaky. No, I don't think it's that, because when it comes to like these fetishes and stuff, it really gets serious, and these guys really want it, because when you think about the fetishes, I think about high-powered men, and this is just from experience. They want to be humiliated because they're in power all the time and they want that power to be like taken away from them, and they want it in the most extreme ways. I know it might seem a little off the wall, but don't ask me how I know. Listen, let's get into it.
That's granted, make sure you admonish any of your witnesses not to discuss the case while the preliminary hearing is going on. Mr. Cohen, anything else?
Yes, I asked that Ms. Rylaarsdam not be shackled during the course of this hearing, Your Honor. One, the cameras. Two, there's been no showing that she poses a danger. And three, it's a matter of dignity.
Okay, I mean, we're at a preliminary hearing, we're not in front of a jury. It's my understanding that her right arm is free, is that accurate?
It is.
Okay. However, how is she still shackled? Her feet aren't shackled.
I believe that she does have a waist chain on.
Okay. For today's preliminary hearing, since we're not in front of a jury, I don't think that's going to create any bias, and therefore, since her feet and legs are not shackled and her right arm is free and able to communicate, as long as she's not uncomfortable, she's going to go ahead and stay in the state that she's in.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anything else, Mr. Cohen?
No.
People?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Now look at this, y'all. It says the man allegedly asked to be wrapped like a mummy. So if he wanted to be wrapped like a mummy, what does that mean? So he's going to be wrapped from his legs all the way up. Now I'm going to let it play. And then when we get to about 10 minutes, I'll go ahead and stop it and we can do Q&A.
People call Dr. Deborah Mary.
Okay. All right, Dr. Berry, you face me, raise your right hand. You swear under penalty of perjury that any
All right, we're going to come back out. We understand there was an issue finding the witness. I just want to comment. I understand the judge's rulings that the shackles are not going to come off for a preliminary hearing where the jury's not present. I'm still a little surprised.
Yeah, it sounds like he just didn't want to take the time.
Yeah.
She's certainly not one of those types of defendants that one would think
Right.
there would be an issue with her not being shackled in court.
But it's
But
a
I think
security
they're on her waist
concern.
already, and to take them off for a preliminary hearing where there's no prejudice to the.
Well, first of all, this woman then wrapped this man up like a mummy and he is no longer here. And y'all want everybody to feel safe up in the court. Are y'all okay? Absolutely. Double shackle her, because I don't know if she's going to leap over or anything like that. In those moments, you just never know. Because recently there was this guy, he was in trial and he got sentenced and he punched his attorney. So yeah, we need her locked up. Let's go.
Jurors or anything.
Yeah.
I think that's where
Yeah,
he was
I
at.
think you're right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I just want to say, this is a crazy,
Yeah.
crazy case.
Tell us more.
This is about a couple, two people living together, having 3 kids, having a OnlyFans page that's idyllic family life,
Mm-hmm.
but then having a secondary page where there's a sex company where she would rent out strippers,
Mhm.
including herself. And this guy rented her out to do some sort of sadomasochism type stuff that went too far. And she was filming it all for her OnlyFans page. It just really, for me, is another sign of the times.
Which the customer wanted.
Yes.
He wanted the act with the saran wrap over the head, and then wanted it filmed and put on the page. It is a sign
He
of the
wanted
times.
some of
Okay, so I guess I can break this down a little bit. So that's kind of like the humiliation. He wanted to be stripped of his power, right? But he wanted to be wrapped up. And like I said, these fetishes they may seem strange to us, but they are so normal in that world.
it. The state is claiming he didn't want the bag over the head, never asked for that specifically. And they're saying the whole thing went too far, should have stopped, she didn't stop it.
And
therefore
that's
she's
why they've
guilty.
charged her.
Right.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting case. All right, we're going to have more from this preliminary hearing in the fatal fetish murder case. Stay with us here on Court TV, your front row seat to justice. ahead.
The married mom of 3 eventually called 911 when she realized that Dale wasn't breathing, but the 55
Oh, wow. So she's married. So she's a married mom of 3, and she has an extracurricular activity. Like she's a dominatrix on the side. Wow. So you know what? For the dominatrix out there, y'all might have to rearrange y'all services, and you need to put a clause in there um of some sort. Hey, if this gets too extreme, we gotta stop. You gotta have that clause in there. Let's go.
5-year-old victim later succumbed to his injuries.
Well, let's go back to court. The first witness, Deputy Medical Examiner Dr. Deborah Berry. Again, this is a preliminary hearing.
Thank you for your patience. We'll start out by stating and spelling your full name for the record into the microphone.
It's Deborah Berry, Debraberry.
Dr. Berry, good morning to you.
Morning.
Can you tell us what you do for a living, please?
I'm a deputy medical examiner,
For how long have you been a deputy medical examiner?
about 3 years.
Can you briefly explain what your duties and responsibilities are?
Yes, I perform autopsies to determine the cause and manner of death in cases that fall under our jurisdiction.
Can you describe for us your education and background that qualifies you for this job?
Yes, after getting my undergraduate degree, I obtained a master's in science, then went to medical school, got a medical doctorate. Following that, I went to a anatomic and clinical pathology residency program, followed by 2 fellowships, one in neuropathology and one in forensic pathology.
Have you ever testified in court before?
Yes,
Can you estimate for us about how many times?
about 12.
Can you also estimate for us about how many autopsies you've either conducted or assisted with?
Mid-900s, 1980s, something like that.
I want to talk to you about just the autopsy process in general. Can you kind of just walk us through how it works and what you're looking for?
Okay, so before we get into her testimony, I just want to run this back through with you guys. If you are just now rolling in, we are covering the fatal fetish murder trial, California versus Michaela. Okay, the victim is identified as Michael Dale, a 56-year-old man. The police said he paid the young lady for fetish sex encounter. What we have now is direct examination. We got Deborah Berry, the deputy medical examiner, and she's giving us the rundown. What's the process? What happened? What does she do? What does she find out? And how does she come up with asphyxia?
Sure. So it starts with an examination of the body as received and document signs of medical intervention or scars or identifying body marks or any signs of injury or natural disease. Then we open up the body and do the same thing internally with the organs.
Before you start an autopsy, in cases involving the police, is there any information that you want to know before you start an autopsy from the police?
Yes, prior to an autopsy, we received an investigator report where they tell us kind of the circumstances surrounding the death, what happened immediately prior to it, whether the person was transported to the hospital, things like that. In a officer involved or police involved death, it's saying we want all the information we can.
How about any pre-existing medical conditions?
That's helpful to know, yes.
And why is that important in your analysis?
It's good to put everything in a context, and it also helps us decide if we have to perform any special procedures in the autopsy. For instance, if the decedent has tuberculosis, we might want to go to an isolation room, things like that.
How about toxicology results? Is that something you also take into consideration?
When we finalize the test certificate, yes.
And during the autopsy process, are blood samples taken for that purpose?
They are, yes.
Does the ME's office have its own toxicology lab, or how does that work?
We do.
In conducting an autopsy, what is the ultimate goal for you?
To determine the cause and manner of death.
When conducting an autopsy, can you tell us who is present? Who are the parties involved with you?
So typically at an autopsy, there's the pathologist, autopsy technicians, we call them forensic autopsy specialists, who help with the procedures, the manual performance of the autopsy. We might have law enforcement officers present in cases where there is a concern for foul play. Sometimes the deputy district attorney is present.
What is a witnessing pathologist?
So at this office, in cases of a homicide, we have a witnessing pathologist in the event that the pathologist performing the autopsy can't attend court.
And during the autopsy process, what is the witnessing pathologist's role?
Essentially just to be present in the room, maybe look over at the findings. It depends on how involved I want to be. I'm going to review the report at the end of the day, so.
I want to talk to you about your role in this case.
Mhm.
Were you assigned to be the witnessing pathologist in ME case 2023-01316 with a patient by the name of Michael Dale?
Yes,
And was the date of examination April 22nd of 2023?
yes.
Who was the pathologist actually conducting the autopsy that day?
That was Dr. Beth Ann Shaver,
Could you spell that for the record, please?
BETHANNSCHAVER.
Now, as a witnessing pathologist for the case, can you sort of walk us through how the autopsy occurred with Dr. Shaver here?
Yes, so I imagine she did exactly what we always do. She doesn't have too much variability there. So she documents all of the medical interventions. She removes that medical debris, things like IV catheters. Then she documents things like identifying body marks or injuries, and the autopsy is performed.
As a witnessing pathologist, you mentioned before that you routinely obtain information from the police department. Was that done in this case as well?
Yes, the detective was at the autopsy, and Dr. Shaver, I'm sure, discussed the case with him.
And as a part of that discussion, were you shown a series of videos from the defendant or the suspect's cell phone as well?
Prior to Dr. Shaver finalizing the case, I did view videos, yes.
Can you explain to us what a neuropathology consultation is?
Sure. So when the brain is removed at autopsy, it's fresh, so it's kind of soft and hard to evaluate. A neuropathology consult is when we put the brain in formalin, let it fix for about 2 weeks or more, and then someone who has a fellowship is board certified in neuropathology examines it for in a more detailed way.
Okay. And can you explain for us in what sorts of cases are you looking to get that extra consultation for the brain?
That really depends on the pathologist. I would do it for a seizure case for sure, or sometimes in a homicide, it's just nice to have another set of eyes to confirm that there's nothing, no surprises.
And would that consultation, would it essentially reveal more information about the state of the brain?
It could.
How about in cases involving asphyxiation?
It depends on, again, the pathologist, just what their threshold is.
Was a neuropathology consultation sought and obtained in this case as well?
Yes.
All right. So was Dr. Shaver ultimately able to make some findings based on her examination and autopsy process?
Yes.
Ultimately, did you agree with Dr. Shaver's findings based on your review of the case?
Yes.
Let's talk about those those findings, starting with the cause of death. What was the cause of death here?
The cause of death was complications of anoxic ischemic encephalopathy due to resuscitated cardiopulmonary arrest, due to asphyxia, due to plastic bags secured over nose and mouth.
Can you break that down for us just in plain English?
Essentially, there was a lack of oxygen to the brain because of the plastic wrapping around the head, leading to fatal injury.
How about the manner of death?
Homicide.
Doctor, we talked about earlier about pre-existing medical conditions and health complications. In the report, it notes some pre-existing health complications. How was it that you're able to rule those out as a potential cause of death?
So that's part of what the whole autopsy is intended to do. If we see something like a myocardial infarct to suggest a heart attack, that might change how we interpret everything. But ultimately, especially in the case of asphyxia, it's akin to a gunshot wound where it's an isolated event. The person might have a bunch of chronic disease as well, but that event is what really caused the death.
Last couple of questions for you. There were also some toxicology findings, specifically blood alcohol content 0.308 and some trazodone on board as well. Again, how are you able to rule those out as a potential causal factor?
Yeah, exactly the same as with the natural disease, where we have this isolated occurrence, this event where the decedent was responsive and went unresponsive during this event. So regardless of what the toxicology shows, this was the inciting incident that led to the death.
Thank you, doctor. I have no further questions.
All right, cross-examination.
All right, so according to the medical examiner, cause of death, asphyxia because of that plastic bag over the head. There were some other possibilities, but she kind of ruled them out. We'll have more from the medical examiner. In fact, we'll have our cross.
Yeah, that was a lot. Wow. But you know, they get real in depth with this case. You know, they're gonna have the experts come in, they're gonna testify. You know, she had someone in there looking over her, or she was the one that was looking over the initial person that was doing the autopsy. I just don't understand why sister didn't take that bag off of his head.
I do believe we did that.
Were you aware that the plastic bag had numerous perforations?
No.
Now, you indicated that, well, at the time, Dr. Shaver, she said that the probable cause of death was asphyxiation, but that she wanted to do a toxicology screening, correct?
Yes, I believe that was the case.
And the toxicology screening was done, correct?
Yes.
So if they did a toxicology, what is that? They would see maybe if he was on any substances, or if he was, you know, had took any Viagra or something like that. But they would find that in his blood work anyway.
And alcohol at a certain level, blood alcohol level, can be fatal, correct?
Yes.
It can cause respiratory failure, correct?
Yes.
Now, the toxicology result came back at the time that he was tested. He had Mr. Dale had a 0.33 blood alcohol level, correct?
In the hospital, yes.
In the hospital, correct?
Yes.
So you're familiar as a doctor with generally how alcohol works in the system, correct?
Yeah.
When you start ingesting it, it goes in, your alcohol level spikes, and then at some point you start eliminating it, correct?
That is correct, yes.
So is it fair to say that if Mr. Dale had not consumed any alcohol from the time that he went in, that he became unresponsive to the time that he went to the hospital, that his alcohol level may have been higher at the time that the incident happened?
That would make sense because you don't know what so if he was drinking, you don't know how much he had. And if he was like freaking out and stuff, That's going to raise up his blood pressure. That's going to speed up his heart rate.
Sure,
It might have been higher than 0.32.
absolutely.
And typically for most people, 0.40 is considered to be a near fatal or fatal level of alcohol, correct?
Yes, that's a correct guideline.
Now, alcohol is a depressant, correct?
Yes,
And that's what suppresses the fact that you're breathing, correct? It's the depressant acting.
yes,
He also had trazodone in his system, correct?
yes.
He had, was it 0.13 nanograms of trazodone?
I think it was 0.17 milligrams per liter.
0.17 milligrams. Now, that's a therapeutic level, correct?
I think it's actually subtherapeutic, but yeah, within that range, sure.
But it's a depressant as well, correct?
Yes. Mhm.
And that can have a reaction with alcohol.
So listen, y'all, what her attorney is saying is this man was drinking and he was on medication. So this was his fetish, but he didn't take the proper precautions before he went into this fetish, in my opinion. He should have went and got him a health screening to check his breathing and all that. I mean, if he was going to want to get wrapped up like a mummy, I would think that he would do his research before he got wrapped up. And last time I checked, wasn't a mummy wrapped up in like a gauze? Like that gauze, like if you like sprain your ankle or your arm or your wrist or something, and that cotton thing, and you would just wrap it around. I've never heard of a mummy being wrapped up in plastic.
Enhancing alcohol's effects, correct?
Yes,
So the two together could cause a person's respiratory to be suppressed, correct?
it could have a synergistic effect, yes,
Now, he also had diabetes, did he not?
yes,
And he had hypertension, did he not?
correct.
He had hepatitis, did he not?
Alcoholic hepatitis, yes,
So, and all of those conditions combined, those could contribute to the fact that the asphyxiation comes on quicker, correct?
they could, yes,
In other words, you'd have less of a reserve of oxygen than a normal person, correct?
yeah, absolutely.
So somebody could actually, to an observer, become asphyxiated quicker than what they were expecting, correct?
Certainly, yeah, absolutely.
Have you seen other bondage cases which resulted in death?
I can't recall, I don't think so.
Nothing further.
Any redirect? No, thank you. May this witness be excused?
Oh, wow. So she's never covered a case with bondage, but she's up here testifying. Child, her attorney is really working for her. But see, this is my thing. That's why I said, why didn't he go for like a health screening or something before he just went in there getting wrapped up like a mummy? And like I said, why didn't he use cotton instead of the plastic?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, thank you for your time. Sorry for the delay.
Still with us, former Deputy Public Defender Philip Dubé. Philip, I have to ask.
Right.
California law, this should be nothing more than an involuntary manslaughter. And what that means is that it's an
We're gonna move up
unintentional
for us.
killing caused by criminal negligence and the complete legal.
All right, let's get back.
Michael Dale during a paid encounter in April of 2023.
Now, according to court documents, Dale paid Michaela.
Oh, wow. Okay, so we can go ahead and read this and then I'll skip it up. It says, model charged with murder, OnlyFans fetish encounter. Michael Dale died of asphyxiation after allegedly asked to be wrapped in saran wrap like a mummy. Dale asked to be bound by duct tape and women's boots glued to his feet. Court documents say plastic wrappings were left in place for 8 minutes while Michaela was recording something else. So she went and veered off to something else, trying to get tape recordings. And this man is over here saying, Was he shaking? Was he moving like a fish? You know? Was he flapping around like a fish and she was too busy recording something else for her OnlyFans? Girl, you should have been focused on that content only. One job at a time. You are dealing with plastic over this man's face. Like anybody that's dealing with plastic, you're going to know, well, let me keep an eye on him because it is over his face and his nose and his eyes.
He was taken to the hospital where he later died of asphyxiation, according to the medical examiner. Michaela is in court now for a preliminary hearing. That means there's no jury at all. The judge is hearing this. We're bringing that preliminary hearing to you. So let's go back inside. Right now, the victim, Michael Dale's roommate, is testifying.
Oh, geez.
I want to turn your attention back to.
All right, y'all. So listen, we about to get into his roommate. I wonder if his roommate knew that he had like this type of fetish. And then, see, I was thinking that Mr. Michael, I was thinking that he was some married guy, you know, that just wanted to get out, have a little fun, and come on back home. But no, child, they said that he got a roommate. So let's listen to the roommate.
April 17th of 2023, regarding an incident where the police came to the house you were living at the time. Do you remember what I'm referring to?
Yes.
At that time, were you living at 685 Terrace Avenue, City of Escondido, County of San Diego?
Yes.
Can you describe for us, sir, is this a house, apartment, a condo?
It's a house.
Single story?
Single story. 5-bedroom. 2-bath.
Are we in a residential area?
Yeah. We're in a neighborhood.
Can you describe for us just briefly sort of the layout of the house? You walk in the front door.
You walk into the front door. To your right is the kitchen. You go a couple more feet and there's the hallway to the 1, 2, 3 bedrooms. And then there's to your right, like I said, this kitchen, living room, another room, and then the corridor to the garage.
So back on April 17th of 2023, who was all living at this home?
At this time, me, there's a roommate named Helen, a roommate named Cindy, and we had another roommate, a male, gosh, I can't remember what his name was, and then Michael Dale.
Okay. So Michael, another male, you, and then
2 females.
2 females. Did everyone have their own room? Were there shared rooms?
Everybody had their own room.
Okay.
We had one shared bathroom between the 3, other than the master bedroom.
I want to talk to you now about Michael Dale. So this incident, we're talking about April 17th of 2023. About how long had Michael Dale been living there up to this incident?
He'd only been there about 5 days, maybe about a week.
Throughout the 5 days, maybe a week that he had been there, had you had many interactions with Mr. Dale?
No, I only talked to him about twice when I saw him in the kitchen. It was a, hey, how are you doing type of thing. I asked him if he needed anything because he had just moved in. But in those 5 days, I only basically saw him twice.
So Mr. Dale's bedroom, right? So you walk in the front door. How do you get to his bedroom?
You walk through the front door, you go a couple feet to the hallway. And
Okay, so y'all, let me ask y'all this before we get up into it, because they're all roommates. I'm thinking that this man had his own home. You know, he was doing his own thing. He has roommates. You have a roommate that went off and did some fetish. The police come in knocking at the door, asking you about an unalive man, and then they let you know that this man was wrapped up and tangled up in some saran wraps for his fetish. Let's get into it.
his room is all all the way at the end of the hallway.
And where is that in relation to where your bedroom was at?
It's completely on the other side of the house. My bedroom's in the garage, so complete opposite sides of the house.
So I want to talk to you now about that day, April 17th, 2023. Do you remember seeing Mr. Dale that day?
That day he, like I said, I was in my garden and he opened his window or came out the slider door, I can't remember, and said that he was gonna have a friend over from a certain time to a certain time. And then that was it for the day.
You said you were out in the garden.
Yeah,
Do you remember about what time of day it was, morning?
it was probably pretty early. I'd probably say about 10:30 or 11, maybe. I'm not too sure exactly the time that was.
That's okay. So the day goes on. Did you see Mr. Dale again?
I didn't see Mr. Dale again until the whole incident happened.
So you see him when you're out in the garden earlier. Do you remember what happened between the time where you're in your garden and the next time you saw him after the incident? Like, were you at the house?
I was at the house, but I suffer from chronic pain and I'm a cancer survivor. So a lot of times if I do anything, I'll be down for hours. So after I saw him,
Oh my God. So just imagine you have a roommate. He's a cancer survivor. He in there trying to live his life, go do his gardening, and thinking that he's with some, I'm not going to say not sane, but he's living with someone that has a fetish that's outside the norm. This man seemed like he is shocked. He is blown away. Let's get into it, child. This is a lot.
I didn't see him again, like I said, until the incident. I pretty much was in my room up until that point. I did make dinner around 3:30 in the afternoon, but I didn't see anybody at that time. I rarely see the other roommates unless, they need something from me or they're doing laundry or they're in the kitchen with me or something, but
Okay.
that was the only time.
Can you describe for us how it was that you became aware of the incident?
I came in to get dessert and I heard some commotion. I put my dessert back and then was proceeding back to my room to call my sister because I was like, what's going on? I got a text from one of the roommates saying all this noise.
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled, effect on listener. Next question.
So you mentioned the commotion. Could you tell from where the commotion was coming from?
Yeah, I could tell it was coming from Michael's room because there was only 3 of us home at the time. Helen.
You know what? Now, so this man was in there getting busy while his roommates were there, getting his fetish off, getting it, wrap me up, glue these boots on. And this is while his roommates were there. She's very bold because I would have been paranoid. I would have been, I don't know, for me, I would have been like, is people here? And then you white, no ma'am. Then they thinking, man, and then look at it now. He's gone. And there was a black woman in the room.
Michael and me, all the other roommates were either at work or gone.
You also mentioned you texted your sister. How does your sister fit into this house?
My sister owns the house. She's basically the landlord.
Okay. And you texted your sister.
I called my sister, sorry.
Apologies.
Yeah,
Called your
sorry.
sister. What was sort of the purpose of the phone call to your sister?
I was calling my sister because Michael had brought home a female and stuff was going on that we don't really allow kind of in the house. We don't have overnight guests. We try to be respectful.
So this is what I mean when I say the humiliation. Michael wanted to be humiliated. He wanted to be embarrassed. He is it's a I don't know what it is, but it's this little trigger where people they want to get caught, they want to be seen, but it's like the excitement of somebody finding out or somebody catching them in the act that'll turn them on. It'll like get their wheels turning. It's a fetish, it's in the moment, it's a turn on. You got to think about it. This is getting this man hot. You know, hey, I got roommates here. They're in the other room. You know, in that moment, he was thinking about his fetish. He wasn't thinking about the rules, and he wasn't thinking about how uncomfortable everybody else was. Now, if you're just now joining in with us, we are covering the fatal fetish murder trial, California versus Michaela. The victim, Michael Dale, report the police found text messages where he asked to be wrapped like a mummy. This is direct examination. We have Andrew Smith, Michael Dale's roommate. Smith said, I came inside the house and I heard some commotion. I was concerned. I'm wondering why Andrew didn't call 911. Andrew, you should have dialed 911 and then you should have called your sister.
But it sounded like, if stuff was going on that shouldn't be going on. And I mean, to each his own, but you got roommates.
Could you be more specific? What was going on? What wasn't allowed in the house?
Well, the overnights, but he brought home, I don't know how you want me to say,
Just use your own word.
prostitute hooker or whatever. And you gotta go get a hotel for that. You move in 5 days and this is what's going on. I had gotten a text from the other roommate where she said all the noise was going on and she was scared.
So other than you, Mr. Dale, and his guest, who else was home at this point in time?
Helen,
Is
the
that
other roommate.
your other roommate?
Yeah.
Is this the one you were texting with?
Yeah, she had sent me the text telling me that all kinds of things.
Listen, she must have been in there beating his ass. Because some of them, they want like a spanking. They might want to get hit. They might want to get punched. So I'm thinking, was she in there tearing his ass up? Because sometimes, okay, when you're rapping them or you're doing the act, they'll want to be verbally abused. You may not understand, but in these acts, sometimes they want to be verbally abused. They want you to use certain type of words. They want you to use all your manpower. They really want to feel it's like a hurt. It may not make sense, but let's go ahead and take a listen.
You're saying?
Just there. So you're sensing this commotion coming from Mr. Dale's room. You mentioned you put your dessert away. What do you remember next?
I remember next was Helen coming out to the garage saying that
Objection, you're saying?
Overruled. Rebecca listener, you can continue.
coming out saying that the girl needed help. So I came into the house and walked towards Michael Dale's room with Helen and the girl. And that's when I saw Mr. Dale, and I said, you guys we need to call 911. So one of the girls, I'm not too sure who dialed 911. We got the 911 operator on the phone. And
Andrew, you should have called the police Andrew, I feel like had you called the police and got them on out there, help would have been on the way. But what you did was you went in the room and you called your sister because she was a landlord. At the end of the day, when it's an emergency situation going on like that, I don't need, if I had a property, I don't need you to call me. Dial 911. You hear noises. Oh, it's getting violent. No, dial 911. I should be the last person that you call. Dial 911 when the police and stuff get there. Call me.
We said that, he wasn't breathing, so he was like, you guys start CPR. The girls looked at me to do it, but in my physical, I wouldn't have been able to do it. We would have had 2 ambulances coming. The girl started CPR. When I saw the situation, the CPR was started, I went to the front door and opened it up for the ambulance or police officers that were going to be coming.
Okay. You're mentioning the girl. Are you talking about Helen or the female guest?
Oh, female guest, sorry.
That same female guest that you're describing, do you also see here in the courtroom today?
Yes, I do.
For the record, can you please describe where she's seated and what color shirt she's wearing?
I think it was red or pink, and it was
I'm sorry, today. Where is she today?
Oh, sorry. She's sitting over there. She has a gray sweatshirt on.
The witnesses identified the defendant. Thank you. So, to back up a little bit, the commotion you hear, are you talking about noises, voices, music?
I heard noises and voices.
Could you tell whose voice?
Okay, so this is my thing. If you're hearing noises and voices and things like that, it's rowdy in there. Why wouldn't you call the police? Hey, we got a noise complaint. Because whatever's going on in there seems like y'all don't want any parts of it, and I don't blame you. But if my roommate and something is going on and it's loud and it's banging and it's this and it's that, we're calling the cops. They in there, I'm automatically think these 2 individuals have been they're intoxicated and they didn't got into a fight. I'm not about to get up in it, so let's go ahead, dial 911. I'm gonna stand by and wait until they get there, open up the door, and boom. I just kind of feel like this could have been prevented, you all.
It was?
Michael Dale. You want me to say what I heard?
Well, so let me ask you another question. You hear Michael Dale's voice. Can you describe for us, are you able to tell if he's calm, if he's panicked, if he's something else?
I couldn't really tell, because like I said, the door is closed and I'm probably 30 feet, 25, 30 feet from his room. I could just hear him say, can we stop? I'll pay you a certain amount more money to stop. And that's when I realized that it wasn't a friend, it was a prostitute or whatever.
So wait a minute. Y'all, let's go back. Hold on. What did he say? I want to hear this because he said, if you stop, I'll pay you more money. And that's when he knew that it was a prostitute. Let's take this back. I'm going to let it flow through.
You want me to say what I heard?
Well, so let me ask you another question. You hear Michael Dale's voice. Can you describe for us, are you able to tell if he's calm, if he's panicked, if he's something else?
I couldn't really tell, because like I said, the door is closed and I'm probably 30 feet, 25, 30 feet from his room. I could just hear him say, can we stop? I'll pay you a certain amount more money to stop. And that's when I realized that it wasn't a friend, it was a prostitute or whatever you want to say.
So you hear Mr. Dale say this comment. Are you in the kitchen at that point?
Basically in the kitchen.
And so after that, is that when you go back to the garage?
That's when I went back to the garage and called my sister and was trying to decide what we should do, call the police or, because like I said, Helen had texted me at that kind of thing.
In that moment right there, you should have called the police. In that moment right there, you should have called the police. That man sounds like he's in there fighting for his life, saying, if you stop, then I'll give you more money. But y'all were hearing the kerfuffle and the noises way before you decided that you were going to take some action. When it was loud or whenever it disturbed me, I would have been over there banging on that door. What y'all got going on in here? Y'all too damn loud.
Time-ish and was hearing noises and was frightened.
Where is Helen in the house when this is going on?
She was in her room, I do believe. Like I said, I wasn't in the house, so I'm not too sure, but I'm sure she was probably in her room because that would be her safest place.
So you were telling us before about how you leave the garage and you walk toward Mr. Dale's room, is
Yes.
that right? Did you actually go in and see what was going on in the room?
Yes, I went into Michael Dale's room and he was laying on the floor, not breathing. And that's when I was like, we need to call 911. And like I said, I can't remember.
We need to squeeze in a break here. Up next, the roommate testifies about what he saw the defendant doing when the alleged victim was.
All right, y'all. So listen, let's get into it. This man said they were hearing noises and he decided that he was going to go and call his sister. Instead of calling the cops, he decided to call his sister. Mr. Michael was in there yelling out, hey, stop. I'll pay you more money if you stop. But do y'all think that she was on an adrenaline rush? She was like, oh, no, you told me this. Like she just got on that rush. Oh, no, I'm in control. You shut up. I don't know. What y'all think?
Helen or what's her name? Michaela. I'm sorry. Michaela. I don't know which one called 911, but once we got them on and they were, given directions for CPR, Michaela started CPR.
You mentioned Mr. Dale was on the ground. Can you tell us, is he laying on his back, on his side?
He was on his back.
What do you remember about his clothing?
He had no shirt on. It looked to be like a pair of sweats. And then from his feet to about his waist was wrapped in saran wrap.
Like clear plastic wrap?
Yeah. And then his hands were above his head, and they were tied up. I can't remember if it was rope or tape.
And to be clear, the witness put his hands above his head, put one hand over the other, as if hands and arms were being suspended over the body. Continue.
And then he was laying there, and that was.
When you saw Mr. Dale in this state, could you tell something was wrong?
Yes. I kind of looked at his eyes and kind of noticed that he wasn't breathing. That's when I was like, call 911.
All right, so 911's called. Did you stick around and wait for police arrival?
I went out into the kitchen, opened up the front door, kind of hanged out for a second. Well, before that, I took the animals had a cat in the house, dogs outside, put them all together, then opened up the door and waited for the first arrival of.
I know you fucking lying. I know you fucking lying. Now he went to go get the animals first. Your friend is laying there. You didn't want to give him CPR. I know you lying. Wow. So you were so upset that he had brought this young lady home, which he refers to her as a prostitute. They just recently had him address her as the friend or Michaela. Let's get into it.
I think it was a police officer got there first.
Sorry, guys. If you are just now tuning in with us, we are covering the case, Fatal Fetish Murder Case, California versus Michaela. The victim is Michael Dale. The cause of his death was listed as asphyxiation. The affidavit says he died while the bag on his head secured with duct tape. Direct examination, we have Andrew Smith, Michael Dale's roommate. Smith says Dale was wrapped in plastic wrap from feet to waist with his hands above him. Let's get into it. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Tell somebody that we're live.
And then I walked him back to the bedroom. I don't know if he started to take over the CPR or not. I'm not too sure because I kind of stayed in the living room at that point.
You mentioned taking a step back. You mentioned his hands sort of above his head, tied together. How about his face or his head? Was there anything covering his face or head when you saw him?
No, not that I recall. I kind of like went in quick, kind of saw him laying there, looked and saw that he wasn't breathing and his eyes kind of looked weird. And that's when I was just like, let's call 911.
If I may have just one moment, Your Honor. Take your time. Thank you, sir. I have no further questions.
Mr. Cohen, cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning.
Good morning.
So your sister owns the house,
Yeah,
and your bedroom is on the other side of the house.
yes.
So while you were in your bedroom, you couldn't really hear what was going on.
No.
You didn't know Mr. Dale that well, correct?
No, not at all.
He had a kind of a loud, boisterous voice, though, correct?
He was kind of both three. Yeah, I mean, I don't know really how I can explain that, but like he, really kind of deepish, kind of loudish voice, but not like super loud, but more so versus how I'm talking.
Okay. Now, at some point you go into the kitchen.
Here with us now to discuss, criminal defense attorney Silva Megardici. And Silva, thank you for joining both of us. We always appreciate you coming on. This is one of those cases that the details and the facts are just so sorted that you think when it gets to a jury, because I think it's going to get past the preliminary hearing phase. And if this case goes before a jury, some are going to be very uncomfortable, no matter what they say during voir dire, listening to the details of the alleged consensual act that the two were engaging in.
Absolutely. First, Judge Ashley and Michael, I adore you both. You are the dream team.
Country, of course, we're going to hear very differing opinions about that once we hear those closing arguments tomorrow. And what I'll be paying attention to is how the defense wraps this up. And
oh, hold on. Matriarch Mastermind murder trial, November 2023. Donna Adelson arrested at Miami airport as she and her husband were boarding overseas flights. Oh, we might have to get into that one too.
How much they are going to lean into playing or pointing the finger rather at the children of Donna Adelson as the ones who are the true villains here. Michael, Ashley?
Yeah, unfortunate position for a mom to be in. Julia Janae, thank you so much for that report. I want to get you back to California now with more testimony in the preliminary hearing for accused murderer and OnlyFans model Michaela Rylaarsdam.
She's accused of killing one of her clients during a paid encounter. The roommate of the alleged victim is on the stand still under cross-examination by the defense.
And you're making yourself food, correct?
I was gonna get some ice cream out of the freezer.
Okay. Getting some ice cream, and that's when you heard something that kind of alerted you and kind of set your radar off. Right?
Yeah, that set my radar off, put the ice cream back, and that's when I went out to call my.
Now, you heard something about stopping, you heard something about money. Fair statement?
Yes.
Is it fair to say that you really didn't hear exactly what exactly, but it just kind of caught your attention?
It caught my attention that money was involved, and that's when I knew that it wasn't like a normal friend.
Okay, so it was the money that really kind of caught your attention.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
Well, that and it was. We'll stop. Can we stop, or can we stop? I'll pay you X amount of money. That whole sentence caught my attention.
Now he's in the door. He's in his room, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Dale's in his room, correct?
Yeah.
The door is closed, correct?
Yes.
They were playing music in there, correct? Did you hear music in there?
Not that I recall. I kind of heard some noises, and then Michael Dale's voice. So I don't, it could have been TV or music or whatnot, but
And when you called your sister, you were concerned about the fact that there might be.
All right, we're just going to pause it right there. If you're just now tuning in, we are covering the fatal fetish murder case, California versus Michaela. Michaela allegedly filmed fetish encounter for her OnlyFans account, called 911 reporting client unresponsive. Now, this was a paid gig. Okay, let's get into it. This was consensual with two adults.
Some acts of prostitution going on there, correct?
yes,
At least at that point, you weren't concerned for Mr. Dale's safety, correct?
no, I was more concerned for the roommate Helen, because she was, like I said, she had texted me and was frightened.
And she had the room next door to Mr. Dale.
Yes, they have a TV or music or whatnot, but
And when you called your sister, you were concerned about the fact that there might be some acts of prostitution going on there, correct?
yes,
At least at that point, you weren't concerned for Mr. Dale's safety.
So listen, he was more concerned about the prostitution rather than the man's life. If you look at this, like I said earlier, this dude went in there and called his sister. Why didn't you call the police? Why didn't you call the police? Your senses had already went off. Okay, that would have really alerted me to call the police because, first of all, this is my roommate. I don't know his business, or whatever the case may be. She may have put something in his drink, or they might be in there fighting. Let me call the police so they can come in and escort them on out. That was your way of getting both of them out of the house that night. He could have taken her home or got her an Uber or something, but you could have possibly saved that man's life. You were worried about prostitution and his acts, and it was a black woman up in there. Let's get into it.
Correct.
no, I was more concerned for the roommate Helen, because she was, like I said, she had texted me and was frightened.
And she had the room next door to Mr. Dale.
Yes, they have a.
But what was he so concerned with Helen for? Helen wasn't tied up. Helen wasn't in no damn saran wrap. What was he concerned for Helen for? Helen was walking around in her room. Helen was not restrained with no plastic.
Wall that connects their two rooms.
Now, you didn't see Michaela arrive with Mr. Dale at the residence?
No, I did not.
Did you tell Detective Hand or Officer Hand on May 11th, 2003, that you saw them run together?
No, I did not.
Now, Michaela, she didn't try and leave, correct? She didn't try and run.
No.
In fact, she gave CPR to Mr. Dale.
Yeah, she started the CPR, and like I said, I don't know if I think the cop took over when he arrived. I'm not too sure. And then the ambulance and a couple more cops. And
You know what? If this does go to trial, I feel like this Andrew is not being honest. Andrew's response was probably like way different than what he's trying to portray. Andrew was pissed off because that man was getting him a piece of ass and Andrew had to hear it. She's attractive. She's not an ugly woman. Now listen, Michaela, the report says officers found her performing CPR on man who died. She had compassion. This was something that he wanted. This was consensual. I don't think that Michaela went into this agreement with this fetish thinking that her client was going to be gone to glory. Let's get into it.
they had Michaela come outside and pretty much stand there outside. They asked me, I brought her blanket.
Well, let me ask you this. Michaela, at the time, she seemed to be concerned about Mr. Dale, correct?
Yes,
She was upset about what was happening, correct?
yes.
And
So concerned because she came out asking for help from Helen, and then Helen asked me, and that's what I came here.
so she came out, she said, he needs help, call 911 or something to that effect.
I'm not too sure. I wasn't in that, because this is what she said to Helen. Helen came to me, we need help. That's when I came in the house. And we all proceeded to the bedroom.
And Michaela, she waited around until the police got there as well, correct?
Yes, she never left. Like I said, the only time I think that she had come out of the bedroom because I think the first police officer took over CPR from her, and then the other cop had her. I think he had her go out front. I think she was pretty much out front from after the second police officer, I do believe, got there.
Thank you. Now, when the officers arrived on scene, you talked with them briefly when they came, correct?
Real briefly, they kind of like where, and I'm like, show them where to go.
Did you tell them a little bit about what happened?
No, I didn't talk to anybody about what happened until the detectives got there, I believe.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Any redirect? No, thank you. Sir, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next one.
And is now on the stand.
At around 10:11 p.m., did you get a call for service at 685 Terrace Avenue?
All right, guys, if you are just now tuning in, we are covering the fatal fetish murder case, California versus Michaela. Michaela, charged with second-degree murder. Man who paid her for fetish sex died by asphyxiation in 2023. This is a pretrial hearing. We're hearing from Officer Daniel Edwards as what we just got Escalondildo. PD, he's the OnlyFans model charged with murder. We're about to get his testimony. Let's take a listen.
City of Escondido, County of San Diego.
I did, sir.
Did you respond?
Yes, sir.
Were you the first one there?
I was.
At what time did you arrive at the residence?
I believe it was approximately 5 minutes after the initial call for service.
Around 10:16?
Yes, sir.
So, walk us through what happened. You roll up on scene.
So listen, he said he got there 5 minutes after. I felt like when Andrew, which is the roommate, if Andrew had called the police, Andrew was very aware that there was a prostitute in the house because he keeps pointing it out. He told the cops when he first initially spoke with them that she was a prostitute. I mean, he drove prostitute in so much that he registered it with everybody that she was a prostitute. Let's go.
What happens next?
When I exited my patrol car, there was two people standing outside of the residence who were, they were residents at that home. They stated there was a male inside the residence that needed medical assistance. I walked inside, there's a long hallway to the left. The male's room was at the end of that hallway. I walked inside, I see a male laying on his back and a female providing CPR.
The female providing CPR, do you see that same female here in court today?
She was at the table to my right, wearing a gray top.
Witnesses identified the defendant.
You mentioned the male laying down. Can you describe for us what you remember about his appearance?
Sure. So he appeared to be unconscious. He was lying on his back. He didn't have a shirt on. His arms were above his head, bound like this. It appeared to be like some sort of tape and rope around his wrists. He was wearing red pants and had both of his legs bound together by a clear plastic wrap. And he was also wearing some black boots.
And once again, he said like this, and he put both hands over his head with his wrists together. Next question.
When you arrived on scene and went back to the bedroom, was your body cam rolling?
Yes, sir.
Permission to approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
And for the record, I'm approaching with People's 1 and the accompanying transcript. This is one of the videos we discussed, Your Honor. For the record, I've provided copies of transcripts to both counsel and the court. So I'm going to push play. I want you to watch the video and let me know if you recognize it, okay? Sure.
Down the hall. Is there anybody else in the house? Yeah, that family says on the way because is he breathing? Why is he tight? Head back over there. Can we take her phone down? 911, can we take the one phone away? Yes. Yeah, he's here. Okay, push it up.
My mother or my wife or doing contact like this.
All right, guys. So listen here. Fatal fetish murder case, California versus Michaela. This was a preliminary hearing. Michaela is being charged with second-degree murder. The man who paid her for fetish sex died by asphyxiation in 2023. The direct examination is with Officer Daniel Edwards, and he's with the police department. Edwards said his arms were bound above his head, tape around his wrist, and legs bound by clear wrap. Listen, we're going to follow this case. In my opinion, The man wanted to be wrapped up like a mummy. And so she provided that service and it went a little too far. You guys, please make sure you like, share, subscribe to the channel. Let somebody know that we are on true crime. And we'll see you soon. Have a great rising on purpose.